Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's Saturday Spotlight. I'm so excited for you to meet the wonderful Haley Anna Marie. She is the author of the Elementas series, and she writes in a genre that you may not have heard about, so you should stay tuned. How are you today, Haley?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Good. So you have your Elementas series. So far you have Yame and War of the Gods. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I have 6 books planned out. Only the 2 are out. Book 3 I'm currently editing. It should be releasing hopefully early next year. It's going by a lot faster than I thought it would. But the final 3 books in my series are completely outlined.
That's awesome. I'm living a similar life. I'm editing my book 3 as well, so I certainly sympathize on that process. Editing is not my favorite. But can you tell us a little bit about the genre of your books? Because I know I had not heard of it before we had met a couple months ago and you explained it to me. So I'd love for you to kind of highlight that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do it's epic fantasy, which, it's kind of self-explanatory for a lot of things. But the specific Grimdark that I do is more of like a niche genre, subgenre. It doesn't just have to go for fantasy. It can be sci-fi and other things too. But basically Grimdark is showing the grimness of the world building. It's dark, it's gritty, and then it's just grim. Bad things are everywhere. There's not a lot of hope in these worlds. When it comes to the dark side, it's more of like the characters. Almost everyone's morally gray. It's a lot of anti-hero. You still find ways to root for these characters, but they are not your typical characters. Like, everyone's kind of a jerk almost. Everyone's out for themselves. But it's got a lot of realism, even though it's fantasy, because these worlds are just crumbling and everywhere you look. The characters are, again, not perfect. In order to reach whatever goals these books have, there's always going to be cruelty. It's very unforgiving. A lot of things are just harsh, and that's basically Grimdark. It's just, if you're looking for, oh, I want a happy ending, everyone's together, Grimdark is not for you. You have to be prepared for the gritty, the bleak, and the ugly.
Like the opposite of a cozy, mystery or cozy fantasy or cozy, what have you.
Absolutely. It is completely opposite. And Grimdark has a lot of different facets to it. Some people have like the war aspect. I mean, I guess I do too, because my second book is, War of the Gods. But, I do mostly of my Grimdark, not just in the world building, but I focus more on the characters. It's a lot of psychological. There's a lot of trauma. That's kind of my focus. It just shows how bad things happen to people, but it's a lot of adaptability too.
I mean, resilience is key, whether you're morally gray or, lawful good. You have to learn to adapt to your surroundings and bounce back from bad things, because bad things are going to happen no matter what your personal persona is, right?
Exactly. And I know there's a lot of books, not just in Grimdark, but, a lot of fantasy books, there are bad things that happen. But what I think separates, from your typical, like, oh, the side character dies, a family member dies, and that's, the hero's courage, to step up and everything. The difference in Grimdark is it's just everywhere. It's no matter where you look, there is something dark going on. It's just kind of how they live. So, but yes, it is completely opposite of like your cozy things. I mean, I absolutely love dark things. Even like TV shows, I always root for the villains. I always want the villains to win, because they never win. It's not fair. So, I'm all for it. I know I don't come off as someone who wants like all the dark and gritty stuff, but when I see characters die, I might be a bit twisted, but like I laugh kind of because like I like failure because I like the realism of fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can totally get that. And so obviously you write something that you enjoy, which I think is something so many authors relate to. And personally, I think it makes better stories that way because you can just tell when something has heart in it, whether it's a story or a meal or what have you. But did you always know you wanted to be an author, or is this something that you kind of fell into?
Actually, yeah, I did always know. So I didn't have hearing until I was about 7 years old. And so when I was young, I would look at, picture books. So that's what children look at. And I had no idea what the stories were, even if they were read to me, because I had to read lips. And normally someone's sitting behind you. So I would make up my own stories. So I kind of just started creating stories just because that's kind of all I had. And then once my hearing was corrected, I just fell in love with storytelling. Absolutely. Wrote my first, I think it was my first trilogy in fourth grade. Absolutely garbage, obviously. It was, whew, but, that's, fourth grade. But I always wanted to be an author, and I've been writing my series in my head since middle school. It wasn't until I turned 18 that I finally sat down and wrote down Yame. I just had to get it out. It was driving me nuts. I was losing sleep over it. I've been writing it over and over and over since middle school. And then finally at 18, I just finally got it out.
Oh, I love that. I think it's so sweet when, I don't know, people just know their passion, right? Like they can recognize like what their soul wants to do if you're willing to go to like on a spiritual like perspective. But I think that's lovely that you were able to find your calling so early and then let yourself pursue it, right? Because it's hard to be a writer. It's hard to put yourself on a page and then give those pages out to other people.
Yeah, absolutely. The funny thing is I wrote Yame and I tucked it in a drawer, never to be seen again. I had zero intention of anyone laying eyes on it. I had zero intention of publishing it. Uh, it just, I was kind of like a little hidden secret, because all my characters are pieces of me,
Mm-hmm.
like all of them, all throughout the series. Well, not every character. Some of these villains I do not want to be associated with, but the main characters, they all have pieces of me. Like Yame is my rage, Garen is my insecurities, and then other characters, which I won't spoil, come later, are other pieces of me. But I finally let it slip, I think like a year after I wrote Yame to my sister, and she begged me to read it, and I let her read it, and she's like, you need to keep working on this. And so I did, and it took me 8 years to off and on, but it took me 8 years before I finally published it. But I actually didn't start promoting until June of last year. So once it was 4 years old, I was like, you know what? I'm going to release book 2. I might as well be promoting myself. And so it's been a long journey, but I'm so glad that I actually am pursuing it harder than I have been.
I think it's fantastic. And, obviously we've come across each other on social media. That's how, we met, so to speak. But I think from, everything I've seen, a lot of people are really into your book, and I think it's been received incredibly well. And people get excited about it because it is a little bit different than what's already out there, but it's still familiar enough that, they know that they'll like the genre going into it, and it's just like a different lens or just a slightly different spin into what they already love.
Yeah, it's absolutely humbling to see the praise I'm getting of it. Like every time I see like a 5-star, 4-star, I'm like, are you sure? Like really? Like me? You're kidding? Because I've had some people like, oh, I'm not really into dark books, but they give it a try, and they're just like, oh my gosh, like I was thinking dark in a different way, but like even though I have dark, a lot of people say there's still a lot of hope. It's a roller coaster because there's a lot of highs and lows. And I mean, I feel like if I keep hitting you over the head with dark and dark and dark, it's gonna get, you're gonna feel not good at the end, But I like to make that roller coaster. I mean, the whole series, there's really high parts and there's really low parts because that's again how I see that's life, like we have the good and we have the bad. So even though I'm grimdark, I still want to give, that illusion of hope.
I love it. Do you have, I know that we're in April right now, are there any other, news, promotions, events, things like that that you have coming up that we can all kind of look forward to?
Um, Nothing scheduled for now. The first show I ever did was a car show that happens every year out here in Fortuna, California. It's always, I want to say it's sometime in July. I can't remember if it's always the third weekend or the second weekend because the rodeo happens at the same time. So but I feel like I'm going to do that show again, just because it was the first time I ever sold in person, and I can't believe how successful I am selling. This community out here in Humboldt County is a big reading community, and I have seen people get so excited, like some people like open the book and start reading the middle, which I think is insane. But, every reader has their little things, and I've seen people like shake and get excited, So I'm thinking I'll be doing the car show again, but nothing's, confirmed or set in stone as of now. But I try to do as many shows that I'm able to get a hold of. But so far, I'm believing in July there'll be a car show that I'll be selling at, which I know is strange at a car show, but again, it was very successful last year, so I plan on doing that again.
That'll be excellent. And if people want to learn more about your events or follow you for any, book 3 upcoming information once you're done editing, where's the best place to find you and follow you?
So the best place to follow me is on Facebook, Elementas series. I keep it very cut neat. I'm on other platforms, but to be honest, my biggest focus is on Facebook. That's where I get the most traction, the most interactions, made great friends, author friends through there. So Facebook is the best place to be updated with everything. Every time I finish a chapter, I let everyone know, when the covers release comes for book 3, the title release, everything. It's going to be Facebook because the other ones I just don't focus on.
Fair enough. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure having you here today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be with me. And for everyone watching, if you've never tried a Grimdark book, I strongly suggest Haley's, and let us know what you think of it. We'd love to hear about it. All right. Thank you so much, Haley.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.
Yeah, take care. All right. Bye, everyone.